Good morning. Good morning, friends, members, guests. Welcome to UU Catskills Online. I'm Catherine Catabiani, a member of the UU Catskills Worship Committee. Our minister is Reverend Bob Janice Dillon. He'll be leading the service live in the sanctuary next week, but today we have a special lay-led service led by our own Donna Schlachman. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. Unitarian Universalism is that it welcomes all seekers. We are guided by 7 principles, and this morning we are considering the proposed 8th principle. We live our principles on a daily basis. At UU Catskills, we affirm Black Lives Matter. We are a welcoming congregation for members of the LGBTQ community. We are a congregational affiliate of the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network, and we are active voices in the effort to address climate change. Thank you for joining us this morning. If you're new, welcome. We encourage you to visit our website at uucatskills.org. And after the service, don't run away. You can connect with old friends and new in our chat rooms. Now, I hope you were all reading this morning's rolling announcements. For all that is going on at UU Catskills, be sure to read the weekly update and the newsletter. Our common read this morning, both here and across Unitarian Universalist Association, is Mistakes and Miracles, Congregations on the Road to Multiculturalism. The book can be purchased online, or you can ask Reverend Bob. There will be several discussions led by Reverend Bob at the congregation starting on October 27. I want to thank our text host this morning, Don Critchell, and Jenny, who is a shout out to Jenny, who is, I guess she's our angel. Okay, our prelude and offertory this morning are both by Robert Nathaniel Dett, African-American composer and pianist. Both of today's pieces are from a musical suite called In the Bottoms. And the prelude is Honey.
Thank you, Catherine. That's great. Good morning, everybody. This morning's service will be talking about the 8th principle and the call to become a beloved, multicultural, anti-racist community. To start off this morning on our Unitarian Universalist journey of discovery, I bring you 2 quotes from two sources of wisdom. Well, one quote from each. This is from Reverend Bob, as it appeared in the September monthly newsletter. Quote, "We are a commitment-making people. We commit to our families, our communities, to causes that may take generations to come about. Sometimes our commitments wane. Sometimes it doesn't. But regularly, in order for life to have meaning, we must decide to whom and or to what values we will devote our precious time and energy," end quote. And this on page 85 of our UU Common Read book, Mistakes and Miracles, the words of W.E.B. Du Bois. "Now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time. Now are the hours of work, and tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime," end quote. And so let's begin together by singing the hymn, "When Our Heart is in a Holy Place."
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
I hope you have your chalices ready. Please join me as we light our chalices. We light this chalice in grateful, loving community. Even in the darkest of times, may its flame light paths to courage, justice, and hope. And now let us say together our unison affirmation. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations, and inspired to bring our gifts of love to all living beings. May we know once again that we are not isolated, but connected in wonder and joy to mystery and miracle in the universe, in this community, and in each other.
So this morning, this is the time in our history when our congregation takes up the 8th principle for consideration of passage. In doing this, as Reverend Bob says, we will be deciding to whom and to what values we will devote our precious time and energy. These are the words of the 8th principle. They'll be up on the screen in just a minute. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. This morning's Story for All Ages speaks to this call to accountably dismantle racism. And I hope the black banner doesn't ruin the story pages. Okay. Take it away.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of Sankofa Read Aloud. Today's story is titled Anti-Racist Baby, written by Ibram X. Kendi, illustrated by Ashley Lukashevsky. I hope that you enjoy this amazing story. Anti-Racist Baby is bred, not born. Anti-racist baby is raised to make society transform. Babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There's no neutrality. Take these 9 steps to make equity a reality. Number 1, open your eyes to all skin colors. Anti-racist baby learns all of the colors, not because race is true. If you claim to be colorblind, you deny what's right in front of you. Number 2, use your words to talk about race. No one will see racism if we only stay silent. If we don't name racism, it won't stop being so violent. Number 3, point at policies as the problem, not the people. Some people get more while others get less because policies don't always grant equal access. Number 4, shout, there's nothing wrong with the people. Even though all races are not treated the same, we are all human. Anti-racist baby can proclaim. Number 5, celebrate all our differences. Anti-racist baby doesn't see certain groups as better or worse. Anti-racist baby loves a world that's truly diverse. Number 6, knock down the stack of cultural blocks. Anti-racist baby appreciates how groups speak, dance, and create as they choose. Anti-racist baby welcomes all groups voicing their unique views. Number 7, confess when being racist. Nothing disrupts racism more than when we confess the racist ideas that we sometimes express. Number 8, grow to be an anti-racist. Anti-racist baby is always learning, changing, and growing. Anti-racist baby stays curious about all people and isn't all knowing. Number 9, believe we shall overcome racism. Anti-Racist Baby is filled with the power to transcend, my friend, and doesn't judge a book by its cover, but reads until the end.
Thank you. The words of the next song, Building Bridges, were written by the women of the Greenham Common Peace Occupation, which is why in this version you'll say that they sing the word sisters, while we usually sing the word friends. The words, although not up there, you know. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony.
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you.
Bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you. Will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. With all of our voices and all of our visions, with all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you.
I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Hey.
Woo! Air 5.
Let it out.
One objection raised by Unitarian Universalists considering the eighth principle is that it is not needed. Their reading of our 7 principles informs them that the work to address racism and other oppressions is implied. Shannon Lang, a member of the Evanston, Illinois UU congregation and founding member of her congregation's chapter of Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, has this to say. There are UU congregations that haven't adopted the eighth principle or have voted against it because they feel our other principles cover it. But they don't. The other principles absolutely do not cover it. The eighth principle is about action. It is about activity, dismantling racism. It specifically speaks to dismantling racism within the institution, our institutions. UU congregations are notorious for saying we want more people of color to come through our doors, that we don't understand why they are not there, why they used to be there and aren't anymore. If your congregation isn't adopting the eighth principle or considering voting against it, there's your answer. To me, a vote against the eighth principle is a vote against me, against our principles, against love. The eighth principle is about doing the work that needs to be done, the work that you think you are doing as individuals and as a congregation, but you're not really doing. By adopting this principle, it would actively show that you really do love and care about the community.
Thank you, Karen Howenstein. Stein. Sorry. This is our time for meditation and contemplation. It is well documented that multicultural and marginalized communities are impacted most by climate change. A member of the UU Ministry for the Earth recently suggested that we think about the earth as the original oppressed being. That just as we have ignored the rights and needs of marginalized communities, we have done the same with the earth. In calling us to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community and dismantle racism and oppression, the eighth principle aligns itself with the seventh. Let us pause for a moment and think about this interdependent web of all existence.
Please rejoin us as we go into our offering. Our congregation is sustained by your generous gifts. During October, the half-plate donations are going to Harambee. The word Harambee means all pulled together in Kenya's national language. And the organization Harambee is a Hudson Valley coalition that supports and promotes the strength of our community through cultural and educational events. They also sponsor the Juneteenth celebration and the African American Cultural Festival. And they're also stewards of the Pine Street African American Burial Ground in Kingston. You can donate online or at uucatskills.org/donate, or send a check payable to UU Catskills at 320 Sawkill Road, Kingston. Our offertory today is Robert Nathaniel Dett's Juba Dance from his In the Bottoms suite, played by our own Polly Pfeiffer.
Thank you, Polly, for that delightful music. And thank you, Bill Lindsay, for the photo the scenic photo during our meditation. Today's homily is called A Journey with No Roadmap. You know the jokes about how many Unitarian Universalists does it take to change a light bulb? I'm going with the version that answers by asking, what makes you think the light bulb needs to be changed? Which is essentially a variation on the question many people have asked. Why do we need the eighth principle? It is the question that Sharon Lang spoke to in Karen Hallenstein's reading and echoes with our own congregation. The Columbia, Ohio Unitarian Universalist congregation answers it this way, quote, racism is a key justice concern, both in our broader society and within our Unitarian Universalism, and has had a persistent presence. This means we need to commit to a persistent response to it, Our founding and our history as a denominationally white congregation. We are consistently being pulled into the comfort of the status quo. We need the intentionality and the accountability of the eighth principle. Our story for all ages reminded us that in the work of dismantling racism and decentering whiteness, there is both unlearning and learning ahead of us. One thing we will discover is that in spite of our wonderful 7 principles, our collective and individual efforts to live into them, we still worship in a space and a culture that is white. In our learning, we will begin to recognize how each of us is influenced and impacted by the white supremacist country we live in. Paula Cole Jones, who co-authored the 8th principle with Bruce Pollock Johnson back in 2013, says this about Unitarian Universalist communities of faith. Quote, after working with congregations on issues of racism and social justice for 15 years, I realized that a person can believe they are being a good UU and following the 7 principles without thinking about or dealing with racism and other oppressions at the systemic level. Evidence. Most UU congregations are European American in membership, culture, especially music, and leadership, even when located in diverse communities. Now, I want to pause a minute because we need to acknowledge that our music director, Catherine Catabiani, has for some years now expanded the diversity of our music, both in its composers, its performance, and culture. Back to Paula Cole Jones's words. Quote, for people identified as white, it's too easy to ignore these issues, which is exactly what keeps the system of racism in our society alive. In fact, it's worsening right now. We need to decenter whiteness and other dominant cultures in Unitarian Universalism. The 8th principle is about holding ourselves accountable and to fulfill the potential of our existing principles. In considering this new principle, we will not be given a step-by-step curriculum guide towards adopting it, hence the title of this homily, A Journey with No Roadmap. But there are actually ample resources available to us, and we can learn from others who have taken this journey ahead of us. This is why the Board of Trustees has made the wise decision that we should engage in the UU Common Read for this year, Mistakes and Miracles. It plants our values as well as us in our values, as well as reminds us of the UU history of failure with regard to promises of inclusivity and our attempts at a faith to address racism in our institutions. Mistakes and Miracles helps us understand the ways Unitarian Universalism calls us to this work of creating beloved multicultural communities. We learn the common threads other congregations have found integral to this work, and we get to see how 5 very different congregations move through this process. We get to see how messy, how difficult this work of change is. We will hear how others have struggled with the answer to the light bulb question, what makes us think we need to change? At the same time, Mistakes and Miracles makes it clear that our future as a Unitarian Universalist congregation is dependent on the long work of change, of journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build diverse multicultural communities. Last winter, we surveyed our congregation's interests and involvement in social justice areas. It was clear that, as Reverend Bob has said, we are a commitment-making people, and we do commit to causes that may take generations to come about. As we dive into the 8th principle, we will have an opportunity to explore the intersectionality of all areas of justice included in this survey that we did. We will learn about the intersectionality between racial justice and climate action, and between climate action and immigrant rights, between racial justice and reproductive rights, and food justice and voting rights and LGBTQ rights, and so on. Whatever justice area speaks to you, whichever of the 7 principles calls to you, the call for action in our 8th principle to dismantle racism and other oppressions is key. The work we are all called to do in considering the 8th principle, among other things, is to understand how our history and white supremacist culture plays out in each of us, in the culture of UUism and here at UU Catskills. We will be offered opportunities to engage in activities and materials developed by other congregations as we discover our own path in this journey. We will learn how our space, our congregation, does or does not feel like a safe space to everyone who comes through our doors. Feeling safe is critical to building community. If you or your family members are people of color, you know about safe and unsafe spaces. You can see it play out in the children in your life as they go from carefree spirits to guarded beings. I saw this in our son who's African American, how as he grew older, he increasingly held back, assessed before entering a room or joining in or spoke up. This is different than shyness. Change is uncomfortable, it's hard work, and it mostly is not welcome. If you are white like me, you may feel a resistance to confronting racism and white supremacy. You may not realize the depth of your own white privilege and how it shows up or can show up every day. How it shows up in simple ways, such as being able to walk into a local shop and simply browse the aisles without the distraction of thinking that someone might be feeling someone's keeping an eye on you, watching your every move. I learned about this particular white privilege from my 2 sons, one Black, one white. They are just a year apart in age, and when they were in their early teens, as a show of independence for them, as we had with their older sister, we would drop them at the mall for a few hours on Saturdays now and then. Invariably, when we picked them up, they would describe being followed by the mall or store security. They would even split up, go down different aisles to see who was actually really being followed. You know the answer to this. For our congregation, some of the challenge of decentering whiteness will likely show up just as we are beginning to work together. As you will learn from Mistakes and Miracles, our white values may interfere with our ability to have meaningful conversations. For example, there's a white cultural value regarding conflict. We are taught to be polite at all costs and always keep the peace. This can silence us. It can keep us from speaking up when conversations are difficult. Another white cultural value is to wordsmith everything that comes our way. We can be especially passionate as Unitarian Universalists about the exact wording of the 8th principle, because we know if it was just changed a little bit here and there, it would be better. But focusing on wordsmithing and thinking that this 8th principle work is the 8th principle work we need to do first disrupts and prevents us from addressing the real work of learning who we are as a congregation. This aspect of our white culture is what we need to set aside for the greater good. As of June, 218 congregations have adopted the 8th principle, 21 of them right here in New York State. They did this not by getting hung up on the wording. They kept their eyes on the prize. The more recent adopters may have even known that the UUA Article 2 Study Commission, which was established to review the proposed 8th principle and all the other 7 principles and our purposes, will be giving its recommendation at the 2023 General Assembly. Paula Cole-Jones, one of the authors of the 8th, is part of this commission, which could end up combining, reducing, rewriting our principles. The Columbus UU congregation that I mentioned earlier says this about the commission's work. Quote, it's anticipated that the meaning and intent of the 8th principle will be reflected in the recommended principles. The General Assembly is expected to vote on the proposed changes at the next meeting, and if that proposal wins the majority vote, it will go to the 2024 General Assembly for a final vote. So you may be sitting there thinking, we should just wait and see. But waiting is not the answer and will not move us closer to a multicultural beloved community. Regardless of what happens at the next 2 GAs, our longevity as a congregation and as a faith depends upon each of us engaging in the transformative work of the 8th principle. The Anti-Racist Task Force has been exploring many of the top, oh, you know what? Hey, folks, I think did we have a video? No, it's coming up, sorry. I thought I was going to leave out the fun part of this homily. Anyway, the Anti-Racism Task Force has been exploring many of the topics at the heart of creating beloved communities. We've been doing this work for a few years now and actually not realizing that that was the work we were doing in our reading and our talking about racism and learning about microaggressions and white privilege and white supremacist culture. To give you an example, though, of everyday racism, we're going to watch now this short video on microaggressions. The piece is funny, but don't let it fool you. The microaggressions that it illustrates are real. It is also a bit risque, so in the event that there are any children watching this, I would send them to the kitchen for 2 minutes to get a snack. The video is called, If Black People Said Stuff White People Say.
Wait a minute, you don't listen to Taylor Swift?
No.
Girl, I am like whiter than you.
Was it hard to grow up in the suburbs? It must have been really boring with no police activity or anything.
Your hair is amazing. You know, it's kind of like my golden retriever. It's so limp and lifeless. Like, how do you do that?
Oh, wow.
Your name is so easy to spell and pronounce. Was it like really easy to get a job?
Check out these photos of me volunteering at an orphanage in Europe. Those little white boys and girls, they were so inspiring.
Oh, wow. No, you don't sound like a dumb hick at all. That's so cool.
You are so pretty for a white girl.
It's really sad when Romney lost, huh? Good old Mitt. Couldn't do it. Could not do it.
You were dating a white guy. Does he have like a really tiny penis?
Oh, you must listen to that rural music, right?
You know who you look just like? Who? Jennifer Lawrence?
So I just saw Titanic. How are you dealing? I had no idea your people had it so hard.
Your skin is so pale. Can I touch it?
Wow. No, I was just talking about that with my friend Jeremy. He's white too. So.
I don't even think of you as white. I don't. I really don't.
Wow. So you have to wear sunscreen? That is so crazy.
Hey, I'm from out of town. Can you help me find some meth? What do you mean you don't listen to Macklemore? You're white.
I've always heard that white girls are like super boring in bed.
Oh, hey.
Yo, what's up, my crack?
Whoa.
Oh, no, man, it's cool. You know, I can say it. My girlfriend's white.
Yeah, not cool, man.
Oh, okay, my bad, Daniel. My bad.
It's crack.
I know you're thinking that was really exaggerated, but I will tell you that it is not. Last July, the Anti-Racism Task Force hosted a Zoom conversation with 2 African-American women who were involved in anti-racist training in their Protestant denomination. And we talked about some of these microaggressions, and they shared things that have happened to them in white spaces or their congregations or at work and in the community. And we had the opportunity of asking questions that we had no one to ask or were afraid to ask or, just thought, what are we thinking? So it was a really wonderful conversation. Because the task force had read a lot about intention versus impact, I found myself recently, and we talked about this too during our conversation last July. I found myself recently apologizing to an African-American woman, a woman I had never met before, that I mistook for the cleaning lady while at Harambe in June, setting up the Sacred Ally quilt project. I had gone upstairs to get something, and she was standing at the top with a spray bottle and a rag in her hand. And I greeted her with, "Hi, you must be the cleaning person." I was expecting somebody to come. And I think because of the conversations we had in July with Harriet and Kira, I was more sensitive to the idea that your words can have an impact that you don't intend. So I immediately said, she said to me, "No, I'm with the Kingston Land Trust. It's my first day of work, and I'm here helping to set up the office." So needless to say, I was mortified, and I apologized profusely for my mistake and wished her luck in her new position. And then I went off on my way, and I thought about impact versus intent. So I went back up, and because I thought, whatever I said could just be another in a long list of degrading comments and things that this woman has received. So I apologized some more, and we got to talk about what had transpired and how she may have felt. And I left the conversation not carrying this, "Oh my God, what did I do?" on with me. I felt, actually good about the learning that I had received from my anti-racist task force group. Well, a few months later at the African American Cultural Festival, our UU booth was across from the booth of the Land Trust, and I saw her there. And I went over to say hello, and we kind of laughed about our first meeting a bit, and she shared some other stuff with me. And then we got to talk about faith. We had this great conversation about faith, and then I realized Reverend Bob is across at the UU booth, so I brought her over, and they continued their conversation about faith. I share this because we all make mistakes, even when we should know better. And we are all at risk for committing microaggressions, but owning our mistakes is part of building community. And that's what opportunity came my way from meeting, apologizing, talking some more, and introducing her to our minister. The hour and a half conversation we had with our anti-racist task force guests spoke directly to the 8th principle work of creating beloved communities. I will close with this, the homily with my takeaways from that conversation. To create a multicultural beloved community, we must be in relationship with those who may be different from ourselves. To be in relationship with people requires that we first be in conversation with them. To be in conversation with people who are not already in our realms requires that we take risks by putting ourselves in spaces we are not accustomed to being in. To take risks requires that we are willing to be uncomfortable and make mistakes. To be comfortable in new spaces requires that we lead with our hearts and not our heads. Let us join together in singing Yewawa, Wo Yaya.
We know we will. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. we know we're there. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. We know we're there. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going. We'll know we're there. Oh yeah, yeah. 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 We'll know we're there. We are going.
To close, I want to paraphrase a metaphor a panelist shared at the 22 UU General Assembly in an 8th Principle workshop. It was offered as a way of helping us to better understand how unique each congregation is as it takes on the work of adopting the 8th principle, and how each of us will find our own place along the way. There's that nice river photo on. Okay, I'll start. Think of the 8th principle as a river. Most rivers carry us only in one direction, from origin to its destination. Depending on its length and width, a river may offer many interesting sights along the way. And at times, the river can feel so big and overwhelming to those traveling it. How we actually interact with the river can and will be different for each of us. Some of us will love that the river has much to offer. We are ready to learn from it and will join an expedition boat. Others may want to go it alone or with a friend. They may swim, motor, sail, row, paddle their way down the river, controlling their own pace and experiences. Many river explorers may start on the river, but decide the work of being on it is too hard. So they will sit on the bank and watch from there. And there will be those who need to get out and rest now and then before continuing on their journey. A few may find they prefer not to be on the river at all, but are happy to sit in a favorite spot and watch it flow by them. What we need to know about the river is that it will move on regardless of how we choose to be or not to be on it. all by itself, the river will keep flowing. And so it will be with the eighth principle work. We each need to decide for ourselves how we will meet this work, what we will bring to it, and how we will engage with it.
Please join me as we extinguish our chalices. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Please stay tuned so that Dawn can sort you all into breakout rooms.